Now on Mississippi Insight. The junior U.S. Senator from the state of Mississippi, Cindy Hyde-Smith, talks with 12 News about border and immigration policies, expanded drilling, relief for farmers, and more. We'll also hear from Mississippi Congressman Michael Guest as he takes charge of a key Homeland Security subcommittee. And in Jackson, senators hear testimony on troubles in the agricultural sector. That's all ahead this week on Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown on podcast and on broadcast, and thank you for joining us for this January 26th edition of Insight. We turn to national politics this week and a conversation with U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. The Republican from Brookhaven has been serving in the Senate since 2018. She serves on several key committees, including Appropriations, Agricultural and Energy, and Natural Resources. And now Hyde-Smith is getting ready for a busy year for both Congress and the second Trump administration. We spoke with the senator by Zoom on Thursday. Senator, give us your thoughts about President Trump's return to the White House and what he's been doing since his inauguration.
Well, you know, he's only the second president that has ever come back that did not serve back-to-back terms, but returned after a 4-year sabbatical. And so it's pretty incredible that he's really hit the ground running. We have already been very, very busy. So we've got the inauguration behind us and we're ready to go to work.
Are you at all concerned about the president's use of executive actions instead of working through Congress?
No, I think that he's ready to work with everyone here. I think he's being extremely reasonable. And, you know, we've had a 4-year experience with him before. I wasn't here his entire first term. I was only here for 2 years of that term. But we've had experience before. And, you know, I certainly think that he's going to include Congress. He's going to include committee members in important decisions. And when, you know, there's discussions being held on things that are critical, I certainly believe he will have us at the table.
Border security and illegal immigration are at the forefront of national policy right now. Tell us why you support the president's policies on this front.
Well, you know, Byron, I campaigned all over the country. I went in all the swing states, and repeatedly I heard people concerned about the border. I would say that was the #1 issue because people want safe homes. They want to have a safe community. And we heard over and over, please close that border. And he's had experience doing that before. He's not a novice at this. And I think that he's going about it the right way.
Immigrants make up about 3% of Mississippi's workforce, and many are employed in our farming industry. How concerned are you about an immigrant crackdown impacting our farmers who are facing acute labor shortages as it is?
Well, I think we need to take the immigration policies and update them, and I think we can work through that because, you know, they are very helpful. As former ag commissioner, I know how helpful that the migrant workers are on getting crops out of the field and other things. So I think we can work through that, but we certainly need immigration reform, and I want to be a big part of that here in the U.S. Senate.
You co-sponsored the Laken-Riley Act. It mandates the detention of illegal immigrants charged with theft or other crimes. How do you address the concerns regarding potential overreach and the implications for due process rights?
I think the overreaching was opening up that border to let someone across there that killed Laken-Riley. I think that's where the overreach was. We have to correct that. We don't want to do anything that's going to be not reasonable, but abiding by the law, creating the laws, creating policy that hopefully will prevent another tragic murder such as Laken-Riley. I'm glad you brought that up because I am a co-sponsor on that bill.
Let's turn to now international trade and tariffs. The president continues to threaten some of our biggest trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China, with substantial tariffs. Mississippi makes a lot of money selling farm products abroad. Are you concerned about how an international trade war could impact our agricultural industry?
Of course, you know, I am for the American farmer, the ranchers and farmers and producers in this country. And I know that I will have a seat at the table when those are discussed. And I think tariffs are an extremely good tool. And I think the president is wise enough to know how to use those tools. But we want fair trade. You know, we want fair trade with every country, including Canada, that I think will be probably one of the first countries that we start looking at things with fair trade. So I'm not concerned about that. I think they will be reasonable, and where they're needed, they will be implemented, but in a reasonable way that U.S. farmers are treated like they should be treated with fair trade.
So if we enact tariffs against Canada and they turn around and put tariffs on us, would that be fair trade?
Well, there's going to be the wars, as you put it, the way you described it, to work things out. And that's the reason you come to the table when there becomes the issues of we've got to learn to be good neighbors, and we have to sit down and develop those policies that will allow us to do that.
What do you want to see in the first 100 days?
Well, we're seeing it already, Byron. It is amazing that with the border, the things that's going on now to implement that with energy dominance. Everybody knows that the cost of farming, the cost of manufacturing, the cost of anything, transporting goods with trade and commerce, the cost of fuel affects all of those things. We are such a blessed country with the resources. And, you know, we are going to get out there and make sure that we have the independence when it comes to energy, that we're producing our own fossil fuels, that we're using our own natural resources, that we don't have to depend on our adversaries to buy oil from.
Yeah, in touching on that, you support the Offshore Energy Security Act of 2025. It's a GOP response to President Biden's ban on new offshore drilling federal waters, including the eastern Gulf of Mexico. How do you respond to those who raise those concerns about the market volatility of oil and gas prices or the possibility of catastrophic spills in the Gulf?
You're going to always have the exposure, the risk of doing business out there because it's happened before, but you have to hold companies accountable and make sure that they have the best practices in place to avoid those things. You can't predict those, and there's certainly accidents and unintended when they do happen, just like the last spill that we did have. But you just have to hold those companies accountable to meet the standards, that they're safely doing the things when it comes to drilling and exploration that they're supposed to be doing. But the benefits, the gains of that, of coming in and supplying the resources that we need for this country, I think way outweighs the dangers of things happening that if you keep your inspections in place, but accidents do happen.
Is there a big risk of an oil glut and a huge price drop? Should we expand drilling?
Well, it's a global market, and it's going to respond in the way that global markets respond to. It is supply and demand, like the basic fundamentals of economics.
The president is now discussing whether the Federal Emergency Management Agency should be scrapped, with states themselves handling disaster relief. Do you believe this is a smart option?
We would have to really take a look at that. Like I said, we're in the preliminary days of this administration. I serve on the Energy Committee, and, you know, everything has to be looked at to determine if it is a good option or not, to look at precedent, to look at success, and to look how to move this forward in a responsible way. But everything should be considered.
You have applauded the Army Corps of Engineers moving forward with the Yazoo Backwater Pumps project. What are the next steps, and how will this project address long-standing flooding issues in West Mississippi and in the Delta?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I have worked so hard to try to get us where we are today. We've signed a record of decision. We did that just a few weeks ago, and we're about to start putting shovels in the ground pretty soon. We have to also continue the funding for that. We're not completely there on funding, but we are there to get started, and it's a plan that I think is really good. I'm very proud of the Army Corps of Engineers and the way that they've worked with federal agencies, that we're where we are. That's one of the things that I am super excited about. When talking to the people of the South Delta that's been affected the most, you know, we had 500,000 acres of land underwater for 6 months. And when I talk to people that are elderly in their late 70s or 80s, and they said, I waded through those same muddy waters when I was a senior in high school, we have long overdue needed to fix this problem. And now, thank goodness, we are to a point where these problems will be fixed.
We just started a new legislative session here at the state. What is it that you want from the state legislature that might help you better in Washington, or what are you trying to get to the state for this year?
You know, we have been so busy and so consumed with getting this new president elected that we haven't really dealt a lot with the state legislature. I just, want their support, which I feel like that we will have their support on energy issues, on ag issues, on medical issues, everything that we look at here. I am the chairman of the subcommittee on appropriations for transportation, housing, and urban development. So I'm sure that there will be opportunities there to work with the state when we, all the state issues that we deal with normally deal with some federal funding. And, we've got a lot of friends down there that are very cooperative, and there will be opportunities to come up. But I want to make sure that I capitalize on this chairmanship, on this subcommittee, that we can do the things that we need to be doing to improve Mississippi.
And finally, let's talk some election politics. Democrat Ty Pinkin says he's planning to run against you in 2026 midterm elections. Do you have any comments on his bid, and do you still plan to run for re-election?
Yes, I do plan to run for re-election, and we're just working hard right here. November of 2026, we got a little time, and I'm sure things will, develop between now and then, and that's okay. We're just going to concentrate on the job before us right now, and we do plan to run for re-election.
Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we'll be right back. It is safe to say this is an exciting year for almost all of Mississippi's congressional delegations, save for Democrat Benny Thompson. Republicans hold both chambers, though by the slimmest of margins in the U.S. House. And Donald Trump is just kicking off a busy agenda with new policies and new challenges. Representative Michael Guest could be a vital part of that agenda. He is set to take the reins of the House's Homeland Security Subcommittee on Border Security and Enforcement. Our correspondents in Washington caught up with Guest on Tuesday.
Congressman, how was the inauguration for you?
It was amazing. We've been waiting for 4 years for Donald Trump's return to Washington. It was everything that we expected. I think the president laid out his agenda, what he hopes to accomplish, whether it be border security, reducing taxes, lowering cost of goods, growing the economy, energy independence, peace through strength, all the things that conservatives that we're so excited about. And it was an honor to get to be in the House chamber, to watch the president be sworn in, to hear that acceptance speech, and then to get to see the results of that action yesterday when he started issuing executive orders to carry out the very things that he campaigned on.
And what are your priorities heading into this new term for the president?
My priorities track nationally what the president's looking at doing. The border is one of the things that I'm extremely interested in. I serve on the Homeland Security Committee. I'm actually I am chairman of the Border Subcommittee. And so we're going to be looking at ways in which we can work with the administration and that we can codify some of the things that President Trump has put into action by way of his executive order. We're going to look at how we can make sure that Remain in Mexico is not just an executive order, but it's something that is in statute. We're going to make sure that we're setting aside money for additional wall construction, that we're setting aside the money needed to round up and deport those individuals who have overstayed their asylum claims, where there are active orders of removal by judges, and we're going to get back to being a country that abides by the rule of law. So that first and foremost is the top priority. But also, we must extend the Trump tax cuts. We must reduce inflation. We must grow the economy. We must support our military. And so this Congress, as Republicans, we have a lot of things that we have to come together on if we're going to honor the promises that we made the American people.
And on the border, it seems like it takes years and years and years for the asylum claims to get adjudicated.
It does. And in some cases, in certain places, people are coming across, they're not given court dates for over 5 years. And so when you have people who are in the country that long, before they appear before a judge or before a magistrate for those claims to be litigated, that's entirely too long. And so we're going to look by working with Jim Jordan, the Judiciary Committee, to make sure that we can expedite those claims as much as possible, move those claims through. And then once those claims are denied, which is the case in 85% of those individuals who apply for asylum, they're coming here not because they're being persecuted in their home country, but they're coming here for economic opportunity, educational opportunity. And while that is admirable, that does not qualify for asylum. And so once those asylum claims are denied, we are going to work to make sure that those individuals are quickly removed from the country and deported back to their country of origin.
And it sounds to me like this parole program that was being used under the Biden administration is going away. Is that?
I hope so. It was a complete disaster, a complete nightmare. Many of the people who had been released into the interior, we have lost them. They are completely lost in the system. We have no idea where these individuals are located. When people fail to appear before the immigration court to argue their asylum claim, we have no information, no way to track these individuals. So not only are we not aware of exactly who's coming in the country because we've done a very poor job vetting them, then once they're released in the country, we've done a worse job tracking those individuals. And we've seen cases throughout the country where people who are in the country illegally have committed violent crimes, they've committed sexual assault, they've committed very serious crimes in nature, and some of those cases had actually been released on minor charges before, Lake and Riley being one, and then later went on to create more, later went on to commit more serious crimes. And so we must do something about the current system that we have in place now, which I could only classify as an utter and complete failure.
We'll switch capitals after the break with state senators' concerns about agriculture. Mississippi Insight continues in a moment. Mississippi farmers began the new year with a new extension of the 2018 Farm Bill and a slice of almost $33 billion in disaster relief and additional aid. But still, there's a lot of turmoil in the agricultural sector. Members of the state Senate's Agriculture Committee gathered Thursday to hear testimony that points to a lot of economic hardship among state farmers. Market volatility is a big part of it, but so is a labor shortage on our farms. We heard from Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann and Senate Agriculture Chairman Neil Whaley.
The entire meeting we were hearing from the industry leaders and economists from Mississippi State, and they were telling about the problems that we're facing with agriculture today. So the entire hearing, anybody can go back and look at that on the YouTube page. It's very informative, very, very good information talking about the good, bad, and ugly with agriculture today, and it is unfortunately filled with bad and ugly.
You mentioned getting feedback. Tell me about what you're hearing from constituents who are faced with these challenges that we heard about. My farmers back home and all across the state that I've known for years are calling me, telling me about the issues that they're facing with the input cost rising continuously. Market prices are dropping continuously within the row crop sector. Now, the cattlemen seem to be doing pretty well right now, but the input costs are rising as well, so that's an industry that's not forgotten. The poultry industry is being affected as well as our catfish. The entire agriculture industry is pretty much under attack right now, and we're just looking for ways to help alleviate those problems going in the future.
The leading economics that we have in the state of Mississippi is agriculture. It's over an $8 billion business to us. 17% of everybody that works in Mississippi works in the agricultural sphere. So it's critical to us. And when I started speaking to bankers late this fall, they started informing me that, yes, we're not going to fund our farmers this year. So that put me in shock, really. So I have gone in the Delta, I've gone to other farmers talking about, are you getting funded? Are you getting furnished for this year? Are you buying any equipment? Are you selling equipment? A lot of them are selling equipment, which is an indicator that they're not going to farm this year. So I'm very concerned about it. And today is the first of what will at least be 2 different hearings.
Tell me about how, they're towards the end of the last couple of speakers, they talked about the kind of domino effects that could happen with other things that are passed here, even if not
not directly related to the ag industry, things like tax plans. How important is it that those type things are thought through for an industry that makes up so much of our economy?
Well, when we do our tax reform, which we'll be doing this year, when we do our tax reform, we're going to find that we'll pay less taxes, of course. That's our goal, been my goal since you hired me. But the problem right now is they don't have any income. So you don't pay taxes if you don't make any money, and that's what's happening to farmers. This is their third year of this, where they've had soybeans that were basically less value than what it cost to put them in. So the economic planning is very important, and then we have to visualize where we're going. You'll see that in the next hearing. What is ag of the future going to look like? If we're not going to be competitive on soybeans in a worldwide market, which we're in, what are we going to be competitive in? So do we need to plant more of the corn or more of cotton? And then we're also going to look at our markets. So in addition to taxes, which are going down hopefully every year, in addition to that, how are we going to market our products? Where's our cotton going to? How's our blends going to do? There are a number of different positive steps as we look out over the next 3, 5, 10, next generation. Where is Mississippi farming going to be?
Big thanks to Senator Hyde-Smith for joining us this week. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown from all of us here at 12 News. Make it a great weekend.